السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا مرحبا بكم. Welcome everyone. I'm just looking at some of the settings here. I hope everyone can see me. I hope we are live on all the networks. If you're on YouTube, please message back to say you're good. And if you're on Facebook, please let us know that we are live. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you know, I am here alone with you right now. Inshallah, Mufti Abdul Wahab will be joining me soon. Welcome, everyone. I see people have been waiting before we even started the session. I hope everyone is well. I noticed someone from SoCal. Just want to make sure everyone's safe in California and the Bay Area, particularly if you're joining us from there. May Allah keep everyone safe, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove these fires that are happening all across the West Coast. Ulu Ameen. So I hear that we're good on YouTube. Can I get someone to reply back on Facebook? If there's someone there, they can just update me. Well, brothers and sisters, I hope everyone is well. And, I like this. I'm alone and I don't have Mufti Abdul Wahab to slow me down, so I can take on whatever I want to say. They don't have to slow me down in any way and water down my discussion and filter my words. Alhamdulillah, last daily recitals, we covered the beginning of Surah Al-Kahf. Surah Al-Kahf, we covered that. And if someone can remind us on the chat, what happened in that discussion? What happened in that discussion? If you can remind me. I see that I don't think we're live on the Facebook of Miftah. Are we live on Miftah's Facebook? That's my biggest question here. If someone can tell me if we're live on Miftah's Facebook page. I think that Facebook, our Facebook viewers might have to tune into YouTube. For some reason, I'm noticing the icon telling me that we are not live on Miftah's Facebook page, and I'm trying to make sure we go live, and it just... No luck. Okay, so we know we're not live on Miftah's Facebook. So, I don't know how to fix it. That's why Mufti Abdul Wahab would be the perfect person to join this discussion. If he joins on time, he can fix it. Otherwise, join us on YouTube, inshallah. If someone can go on the comment section and let them know if there's possible. So last week we talked about Surah Al-Kahf, the benefits of Surah Al-Kahf, the first 10 ayat. When you read the first 10 ayat of Surah Al-Kahf, عُصِمَ مِنْ فِتْنَةِ الْمَسِيحِ الدَّجَّالِ. You are saved from the trials of Dajjal. That is a huge trial. That is a huge challenge. I hope people recited it last Friday and they continue to recite it. The idea is that we get hooked onto this. These are daily recitals, and we talked about this before, that the purpose of reciting these verses in our salah, in our life, in our daily routine is that it becomes a form of protection. Inshallah, tonight, like we had mentioned in the last session on daily recitals, we will do the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf. They are also very significant because these 10 verses, when we talked about it last week, there's a narration, Awakhil Ashr Surah Al-Kahf. Anyone that memorizes or reads the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf, they're also protected. So the virtue is in the beginning of Surah Al-Kahf, And the virtue is also noted for the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf. There's something about the endings of the surahs in the Quran. They end in a very strong message. Very strong message. We did that 2 weeks ago with Surah Isra, that it ended with a very powerful note. And this is how the surah ends. So I will read some of the verses from the surah. You guys can follow along with me. If you guys have not opened up the surah, this is Surah Kahf. The last few verses, we will read from verse, you can say number 99, 100. The discussion starts from verse number 99, so we'll start from there. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وتركنا بعضهم يومئذ يموج في بعض ونفخ في الصور فجمعناهم جمعا وعرضنا جهنم يومئذ للكافرين عرضا الذين كانت أعينهم في غطاء عن ذكري وكانوا لا يستطيعون سمعا أفحسب الذين كفروا أن يتخذوا عبادي من دوني أولياء إنا أعتدنا جهنم للكافرين نزلا قل هل ننبئكم بالأخسرين أعمالا الذين ضل سعيهم في الحياة الدنيا وهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا أولئك الذين كفروا بآيات ربهم ولقائه فحبطت أعمالهم فلا نقيم لهم يوم القيامة وزنا ذلك جزاؤهم جهنم بما كفروا واتخذوا آياتي ورسلي هزوا إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات كانت لهم جنات الفردوس نزلا خالدين فيها لا يبغون عنها حولا قل لو كان البحر مدادا لكلمات ربي لنفد البحر قبل أن تنفد كلمات ربي ولو جئنا بمثله مددا قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم يوحى إلي أنما إلهكم إله واحد فمن كان يرجو لقاء ربه فليعمل عملا صالحا ولا يشرك بعبادة ربه أحدا صدق الله العظيم.
MashaAllah, Bijan.
Oh, welcome, Mufti Abdul Wahab.
That was beautiful, Bijan. I was just listening to your qira'ah. So soothing, so relaxing, so beautiful, MashaAllah.
You know, if you're honest, and I ask you the same question again, were you crying?
Oh, I would be crying if I came on from the beginning. I just joined the latter portion of it, but it was very beautiful.
You don't want to mess up your makeup, huh?
Yeah, the Saforiya.
Saforiya. Jazakallah khair for listening, Mufti Abdul Wahab.
Everyone in the crowd.
Welcome on, Mufti Abdul Wahab.
How are you doing, Bijan?
Everybody's waiting for you. Nobody's paying attention to what I'm saying.
Everyone's here for you, Bijan. You know that.
You know, they're all here. They're waiting for Mufti Abdul Wahab. Every day you have a different look in the background. The camera definitely, doesn't do justice to, the glamour that's on your face.
Really? Man, I thought the camera was good. I thought it would do more.
It's better. It's much, much better than before. Mufti Abdul Wahab, are we live on Miftah Facebook page?
Yes, yes. I uploaded it again.
How do you do that? There's some smart stuff that you do.
Technical.
Technical. All right. I was having some technical difficulty earlier, but welcome everyone. I want to welcome Mufti Abdul Wahab. I want to welcome everyone. I have covered some of the stuff that we discussed last week in the daily recitals, and I've informed the listeners and the viewers that we will be doing the last few verses of Surah Al-Kahf, which is a surah. Entire surah should be recited on Fridays. You know, if we can just be Muslims on Friday, but we do it right, it will help us become better Muslims the rest of the week. You know, like even if we're like Friday Muslims, it's fine. And like, you know, on Friday,
you're doing good.
Today on Friday, you know, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do all of it. What happens is it forces you to be a better Muslim on Saturday, and it will force you to be a better Muslim even on Sunday. You know, it will help you. So usually when people come to the end of the week, they're just thinking about just enjoying the rest of the weekend. But if you come into a Friday reading Surah Al-Kahf, that's probably the most Quran you've probably, not everybody, but I'm not judging anyone, but it's probably
even us. The challenge is always a challenge for everyone, right?
Yeah, like you read a lot of Quran on Friday and you attended a khutbah or you listened to a khutbah. Now that will help you on the weekend, you know. And I know people who do something consistently, they transform them. It transforms them.
I mean, the whole objective of this entire series, and even the one that you and Mufti Abdul Rahman are doing on Wednesday, is to just encourage people to recite the Quran. That's the final objective, right? To just recite the Quran. When a person, like even us, when we lack in our recitation, we can feel a difference. when we lack in recitation, we can feel the difference in iman, and when we increase our recitation, we can tell that there's an influx of iman. It's very apparent. It's very clear to the person that lives in the house how cold or warm their house is, right? Similarly, it's very clear for a person that recites Quran or doesn't recite Quran to feel the difference. But in order to feel the difference, we have to experience it a few times, right? So the entire goal of these sessions is to encourage one another to recite the Quran once again. We all struggle, so don't feel like, oh wow, and I'm sure that these people don't struggle, but I struggle. Everyone struggles to recite. I struggle to recite on Fridays, but Surah Al-Kahf to myself. There's Fridays I've gone that I've missed it, right? I take the shortcut of the first 10 and the last 10 verses. Unfortunately, it's the reality, right? This is the truth. But the goal is that, inshallah, that we can all recite it every single week, inshallah.
MashaAllah.
You want the last 10 verses?
Well, the last 10 verses,
you want to go through each verse, or want to just give them a summary of the verses, right? So make
you can translate some of it and go through a summary of some of it. What happens, I started reading from verse number 99, from وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْضُهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ, and then وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَجَمَعْنَاهُم جَمْعًا, verse number 99 in the surah. And the discussion before that is about what, Mufti Abdul Wahab? Can you tell us a little bit?
I mean, right before this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about al-Qarnayn, right? And the al-Qarnayn in the three roles that he played. He played the role of a teacher, people don't understand it because it's such a small passage, but just in the passage of al-Qarnayn, which is about less than a page, there are three stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions. One story is him going to a group of people which are being oppressed by a different group. So there's some form of oppression. So he goes there, and he's pretty much a just adil ruler. So he's playing the role of what we could call a judge. And he brings them together, and he tells the people that if you continue to do this, I'll be back. And if I come back, it won't be that easy. So he creates justice in the society. He creates an equal opportunity in that society. Then he continues. He moves forward, and he finds a community that lives in the open sun, unclothed. They didn't wear clothes.
They had no shade.
They had no shade. They had no houses. They lived because that's how they saw cattle living. In some narrations, Ibn Kathir and Imam Qurtubi says that they used to actually walk on their fours. They would walk on their fours with their hands and their legs.
What?
Yeah, because they saw cattle, and when they
walk like animals.
They walk like animals, right?
My son Zakaria will do great with those guys. He loves running around on 4 feet.
Allah says, "Lam naj'al lahum min duniha sitra." There was no sitra. There was nothing in between the two, right? And so they were just living like that. So over here he became a muallim, he became a teacher.
So we
He
taught him how to walk.
he taught them how to live like a human. He taught them how to build.
That's a lot of the stuff I do too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part of being a teacher is to
Yeah.
learn how
Insan the putar. Insan the putar.
which means that son of a human being, by the way.
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound as funny in English, but nonetheless, he teaches them how to live. In some narrations, he actually taught them how to live underneath the earth because on top was too hot, so they went underneath. And in the third story, he speaks about the people of Turkey in some narrations, not Turkey present time, but Turkestan, right? Or even today, where the
Eastern Europe.
Eastern Europe, where the Uyghur Muslims are being oppressed. May Allah protect them, may Allah preserve them, may Allah grant them ease and comfort and success.
Near the Caucasus mountain.
The Caucasus Mountains.
Yeah.
So this was the third place where he went, and these people, Yajuj Majuj, were bothering the people that were living outside on the other side of the mountain, and they came to him. They wanted a free pass. Everyone knew Dhul Qarnayn. Everyone knew who he was. Different narrations till
He was
today.
king of the world. He was king of the world.
King of the world, right? Some refer to him as Alexandria. Some refer to him as different names. But in the Quran, it doesn't necessarily mention clearly who he was. But what we do know is that he came before the era of Musa alayhi salam and after the era of Lut alayhi salam. So he came within that window, right? And he's Dhul Qarnayn. He was the king of the world, and he was a just ruler. He was a teacher. And over here, he plays the role of not being bought out and getting an easy handout. Hey, can you help protect us? He says, hey, that's not how it's going to work. I'm not just going to help you. I'll help you, but I won't do it for you. Bring the iron, bring the coal, bring all these elements, and we'll build the wall together. And they built. So he got his hands dirty over here, right? So as a leader,
yeah, and the Quran says about those people, قَوْمًا لَا يَكَادُونَ يَفْقَهُونَ قَوْلًا. It feel like they were so disconnected from humanity they didn't understand any language.
they don't know anything.
So,
Yeah.
they didn't know, like لَا يَفْقَهُونَ قَوْلًا. There was no way of communication. They didn't have a language. They were like Google Gaga, whatever they were doing. Literally sign language or something. They didn't have a civilization.
One is unlettered, which is ummi, right? In my opinion, saying the Prophet was illiterate is fairly disrespectful. He was unlettered, right? He couldn't write and read, but he was very literate, right? These people were illiterate. They don't know how to speak, write, read, anything. And then he was still able to teach them, Bajan, how to build this beautiful fortress or fort that's blocking the Yajuj Majuj from them. We're not speaking of who the Yajuj Majuj are right now, but who's blocking the Yajuj Majuj from coming and attacking them at night. So this is Dhul Qarnayn, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then continues from there. Bajan, you asked about that, so I brought the story up, or else we weren't really going to speak about Dhul Qarnayn as much.
I mean, it's important, man. It's just it contextualizes the discussion. And who was he going to lock up? He was going to lock up these rebellious individuals. Imagine these people who didn't know language, and then they were being terrorized by these small little guys who are small tribe. That Yajuj Majuj are not two people. They're a tribe. One tribe is called Yajuj, and the other tribe is called Majuj. And in English, we translate it as Gog Magog, right? And these guys. Mufti Sahib, sorry, I'm going to be a little silly today because I'm very tired. So when me,
when you get tired,
it happens to be
when
a little
tired
unfiltered.
and hungry, it's not a good combination.
The thing is, when you were not here, I was excited. I was like, I could do whatever I want. Today's unfiltered, so it's be fun. But you showed up. So in that sense, that these guys were terrorizing the entire world. Drinking the water, didn't leave any fresh water for people to drink, food, crops, everything. And then please, they're like. He's like, فَعِينُونِي بِقُوَّةٍ. Help me out. We'll lock them up. And they're locked up to the day of judgment, to the end of time. One of the 10 signs prior to the day of resurrection, 10 major signs, is khuruj, the exposure of Yajuj Majuj to the world. It's a very scary scene, and they will come out and they will cause havoc, chaos in the entire world. They're just wild creatures. And the Prophet ﷺ said that out of every 100 individuals on the Day of Judgment, 99 of them will go to hell. So then the Sahaba asked, Ya Rasulullah, they got depressed. 99, okay, fine. If out of us 100, Abu Bakr is going to paradise, right? So where are we going? So they got really worried, and they're just comparing it to their life and their future. The Prophet ﷺ said, no, the 99 will all be Yajuj Majuj. That meaning they're going to outnumber human civilization.
Wow.
Now, the question, there are human beings. That's another discussion. There are from the children of Adam.
Mhm.
There are human beings on this earth who are just who have been given a super wild power, you
Mm.
know, and they're going to come. And then as we go into the end of Surah, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about these fitans. Like in the beginning of the surah, Allah talks about Diqyanus, that king that came at the time of the sleepers. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about that fitna. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends the surah by the fitna that will come in the end of time.
Mm.
You see that? So this surah tells you that there's a lot of darkness, a lot of evil that's happened in the past, that might happen in the future. But it also tells you this is what you're supposed to read: protection
Protection.
from that evil,
Wow.
from those elements of forces of evil. So in the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ. These Gog Magog they're living in within each other. يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ. They're moving in waves. I mean, when Allah describes them moving around wherever they are,
Moving
they're
away.
moving in waves. Allah didn't say يَمُودُ بَعْضُهُمْ فِي بَعْضٍ. They're not moving within each other and just traveling. يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ. Mawj in Arabic means a wave.
Mm.
And they're an ocean of people. And then Allah says, وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ. When they come out on the Day of Judgment, what will happen is وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ. This is why we know this is one of the final signs of the Day of Judgment. وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَجَمَعْنَاهُم جَمْعًا. Then this trumpet will be blown. وَعَرَضْنَا جَهَنَّمَ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَرْضًا. Then Jahannam will be presented in front of the non-believers, disbelievers, the non-Muslims. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about what their issue was. الَّذِينَ كَانَتْ أَعْيُنُهُمْ فِي غِطَاءٍ عَنْ ذِكْرِي. These were people that they had a blindfold in front of their eyes. غِطَاءٍ عَنْ ذِكْرِي. I'm translating it as a blindfold.
Mm.
It's something that they place on their eyes themselves. غِطَاءٍ عَنْ ذِكْرِي. It's like they
Barrier.
they intended, they didn't, it wasn't like they were blinded. Sometimes you're captured and someone kidnaps you. That's not what happened to these people. These guys, they blindfolded themselves to the truth. They just didn't pay attention. وَكَانُوا لَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ سَمْعًا. They never took any heed in the message of God.
Mm.
Allah says in the Quran, أَفَحَسِبَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَن يَتَّخِذُوا عِبَادِي مِن دُونِي أَوْلِيَاءَ. Do these disbelievers think they can choose my servants as their helpers, as their assistant? The meaning, do these Yahud or Nasara think that they can use Isa alayhi salam as a savior, or anyone else as a protection or as a support? Inna a'tadna jahannam lil kafirin nuzula. Allah says again, I have already prepared for the disbelievers in the fire of hell a nuzul. And I talked about this in Tafsir Surah Al-Kahf. A very evil welcoming. Go ahead, Mufti Abdul Wahab, you add to this.
No, that's beautiful. I think we're just we give the backdrop of the fitan. Surah Al-Kahf is important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends it all off with the centerpiece of challenges and the centerpiece of trials that we have within ourselves. Ali would say, "Man arafa nafsahu wa arafa rabbah." The person that recognizes himself recognizes Allah. This ayah tells us about that.
The next ayah?
The next ayah. Who is the greatest loser? What is the greatest loss? الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُم يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا.
Yeah. You can read the ayah before that too.
So قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُم
You read قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُم بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا.
So tell them, هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُم, should I tell you who the worst losers are? The people that have the biggest loss in this world? إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. The same word is being used here. And khusran and khusr is not just loss, it's irreversible loss. You can't come back. You've lost. There's no second race. It's Olympics are done, brother. Sister, you got to come back 4 years later. That's still reversible to a certain extent, right? But it's done. The case has been sealed. Who are these people that will suffer this loss? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran doesn't discuss individuals. He doesn't say these people or those people. He talks about qualities. These qualities are qualities that will lead to loss. Or these qualities
and again, first Allah highlights the qualities which lead to someone's destruction, and then a few verses later, this is verse number 103. Then he talks about the verses later on in the concluding of the qualities which lead to someone's salvation. Go ahead. Sorry,
these last 10 ayahs. We started off with the ayah that you mentioned, that finding any savior, any god, and anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the biggest sin that a person can commit, which is shirk. But that's not where it's not a start and end all place. There's more things that can be a source of our destruction, and one of those spots are الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. When we lose our own way, الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ. Because the word sa'i doesn't mean actions. That's ضَلَّ أَعْمَالُهُم. ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ. Sa'i means their effort, their drive, their vision, their passion,
their purpose.
So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't refer to Hajar alayhi salam running from Safa and Marwa as a running. He calls it a sa'i, because her running had a purpose.
Subhanallah.
Her had a vision. Her running had a bigger purpose, which was to find water. It wasn't just going back from one place to the next place. It's called sa'i. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in other parts in the Quran as well, وَمَنْ أَرَادَ الْآخِرَةَ وَسَعَى لَهَا سَعْيَهَا. Whosoever wants to receive the reward of the akhirah, and they have that as their biggest purpose, and they put their talent, their skill, their energy towards receiving the akhirah, then they'll get it. They don't have to. It's not about what you did. It's about how much effort we made to do it, right? And this is a strong belief of the fuqaha of our tradition, of the jurists, that the amal has a reward, but the effort that we take and that we have to exert to receive that amal also has its own reward. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا. Those who strive, the greater their effort, the greater their reward. Right? But you're saying,
I didn't even think about Mufti. We can spend the whole evening talking about sa'i. The word sa'i is such a powerful word. It's used multiple times in the Quran that you just mentioned right there. فَأُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ سَعْيُهُمْ مَشْكُورًا. That's the key in the ayah, that those who struggle for the akhirah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He is grateful for your struggle. He is grateful for your passion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ سَعْيَكُمْ لَشَتَّى. All of your, everyone has different struggles every day. Right? إِنَّ سَعْيَكُمْ لَشَتَّى. Allah says, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا. And then Surah وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى وَمَا خَلَقَ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى إِنَّ سَعْيَكُمْ لَشَتَّى. Allah takes an oath of the night. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى. Takes an oath of the day. وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا تَجَلَّى وَمَا خَلَقَ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى. And he takes oath in the genders. All that has been created in the men and the women. Inna sa'i. Verily, everyone here wakes up. A mother walks out of her home with this her own mission of that day, purpose of that day. A person, you can just see when a person dresses up. What are they dressing up for? They're dressing up for akhirah, or they're dressing up for dunya. And then
the effort.
Yeah, it's just you know where you're going. Just the way you dress up, the way you look in the mirror, the way you style your hair. The way you do everything. It's in that you can see the person's side. And then what the thing is, Mufti Sahab, the secret about the sa'i, the struggle of the day. Usually sa'i is something that we do during the day, right? Whatever struggle and missions that you do in the day, that is going to be your cry at night. So if you woke up to go to work to make money, which is all of us do that, you do that, I do that. But if that's the only purpose, then at nighttime we're going to be asking for more of that. Oh Allah, give me more of that. But of course, on the day of judgment, أَنَّ سَعْيَهُ سَوْفَ يُرَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, on the day of judgment, we're going to show you everything that you strived in the dunya for. So this is why it's so important. You're like, can you imagine Allah is saying who is the biggest loser? Say who. Look who's checking this out. Like, when a university announces the winners, right? And the gold medal, we know who the losers are. Usually, sometimes we don't know. But imagine Allah is announcing the loser. Check this out, Mufti Sahab. It is from the mercy of God that He is telling us what the quality of a loser is.
So we can
Because then we escape that. How unfortunate is a person that they're told this is how a loser looks like. Sometimes it's wrong way to do it, but sometimes we tell our children, "Dekho, dekho, look. If you don't go to school, this is what you're gonna do. If you go to school, this is what you're gonna do. No one's gonna marry you." Like, I have parents, they come out with like all the way they jump to marriage. Like, come on, man, I don't know if he wants to get married. Maybe he doesn't like the opposite gender. God knows what the situation is nowadays. You know, so but still, we show examples of people who were not able to become equally successful, but in the eyes of Allah, they may be successful, right? Because they're not materially successful doesn't mean they're not successful. That's our measurables, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, forget that. I'm telling you what is failure. So قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُمْ. Should I not tell you? Like, come on. بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا. Those who did good, who actually did something, but they did it wrong. But they struggle. So like some people don't do anything and they go to hell. These people, this is the tragedy. These people were doing a lot. You see the difference?
And they thought they were doing good. So that's why it's important at every aspect, every moment of our life, when we're doing something, is to recheck why we're doing it. Because we may be doing what we thought was good, but do we check ourselves? Do we ask people around us?
And also, like, are we doing it right? Like sometimes, like, you might be doing a paper for assignment, right? The whole thing, MLA format, all this stuff. You're doing all these papers, but you're doing the wrong assignment. Like you stayed awake all night, and then you wake up in the morning like, oh my goodness, man.
Has that happened to you before? Is that why you're using that example?
Have I ever done the wrong assignment? I mean, I'm sure it's happened in the past, where I didn't pay attention when I was younger. Even today it's possible. So even directions. You go the wrong direction. Like you're
sometimes you put in the GPS, you put in the wrong place, and you reach.
Like sometimes it's a township, or like is it Bloomfield or Bloomfield Hills? Or is it the city, just Dearborn Heights? So you can just put the wrong, and you go the wrong way. You burn so much gas. You came from so far. It's a really critical, meeting that you're supposed to be to. Like you're like, I'm there. I'm standing outside, like in the wrong city. Like, so there's some people that they're trying. They think they're doing the right thing, but they're going the wrong way. They're doing the wrong method. That's what the Quran is saying. It's not like they haven't done it. They're الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ. They've struggled, but they've done the wrong struggle.
Yeah, the struggle was for so Bijan, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only judge that doesn't only reward us on our end material or our end
gain.
Sorry?
The end game, the gain that's come in the
not only the end thing that happens, whatever, so it's not just the conclusion, but Allah actually rewards us on our effort. No teacher in the world, no employer, no boss will look at it and say, oh wow, you worked really hard, so you get a raise. It's all about what you finished.
Wow, well, very, very profound point.
Was it done or was it not done? You put in 20 hours. Well, Shaykh bin Nasir's cup said, you work hard. Well, no one cares. Work harder, right? So like, no one, not your mother, not our of course, mothers or fathers are different, but generally people will not judge us based on how much effort we made. It's they'll be compassionate to you. They'll feel for you. They'll care for you, which is all normal. But if the measurables were not met, we just move forward.
SubhanAllah, that's a very valid point.
Next person up, move on, make room for the next person. I love you, I care for you. But
everybody's result based.
It's all about the end result. That's what I was looking for, the end result. In this ayah, even though it's speaking about something scary, it teaches us something extremely beautiful and merciful. That even if the end result is flawed, my salat is not perfect, my zakat was flawed, my tahara wasn't the way it should have been, I didn't learn it, my tajweed was wrong, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it's not only about your end result. How much effort did you make to reach that point? If you made effort to reach that point, you will be rewarded based on your effort. Sometimes perfection is the greatest barrier towards progress.
You're deep, man. We're deep today.
No, Bijan. Perfection is Faraz, and sorry for all the youngsters, we always talk about this, and every once he brought this up, and I said, that's a very valid point. perfection is the biggest barrier towards progress.
Are you trying to become perfect about something? Well, how do you learning?
My point is that we don't not do something because it's not perfect. We still do it and we get better and better at it. That's the only way to get better at something. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is just continue doing it, right? And your efforts will be rewarded, even if the end. Sometimes people don't want to pray salat because they don't know how to recite Quran as well. Just pray. People don't want to do
that. The hadith of the Prophet الماهر بالقرآن مع الصفة الكرام البررة والذي يقرأ القرآن ويتتعتع به وعليه شاق له أجران. Those who read the Quran very fluently, and they can recite it nice, they have good tajweed, they get reward. They're with the noble angels. صفرة الكرام البررة. And those who struggle, يقرأ القرآن ويتتعتع. Sometimes, I'm not trying to call anyone out, but like someone from Middle East sees someone Desi reading Quran, right? And they look at them like they're butchering it. But you have no idea. They're probably getting more reward than you.
It's effort.
It's effort.
It's what and every person has to find out what their next level is. If I'm proficient in reciting the Quran, what's my next challenge? That's what they tell us in life, right?
And, it's like when you're learning Arabic, you want to understand the Quran, but you're trying and you're struggling. That's it. That's what Allah wants to see, and that's your Jannah.
That's
and
what Jannah
is. You'll get it better.
And really, I feel like that point it's sent home through so many different narrations. Prophet, a man comes to Prophet and says, "Ayyu sadaqati afdal." What is the greatest charity? And we would think, like by every definition, the more miftah sustainers, the better the charity, the higher the number.
That's what I say. The more money you give, that's the best charity. Let me take out the Muftah Sustainer banner. Why?
This is the wrong point of view.
Why'd you tickle that nerve of mine?
But we think that the more that you give, the better, and that can be true. But the Prophet answers it. The Prophet understood the questioner where he's coming from. The guy didn't have that much money, right? He was a master of understanding the questioner's psychic. Right? So he says, "Anta sahihun shahi, takhsha al-faqr wa ta'malu al-ghina." The best charity is a charity that when you give it, you are healthy and you have shuh, which means you have desire for the wealth. Yeah, you like that wealth.
Love it. You love the stock. You love the money.
So the age of between 24 to 50, where a person is just accumulating money, you actually love that wealth. Shahi.
You love that Robin Hood app.
You remember? Are you getting into stocks? Are you trying to tell us something?
Listen, man.
Are you trying to tell us something?
I'm not into the Robin Hood stuff. Steal people's things and donate it somewhere.
And Batman stuff.
I'm not into that stuff. Go ahead.
So he finishes off the hadith by saying, "Takhsha al-faqr," and you fear by you giving this money, you actually will become poor. And by keeping it, you might become rich. And you still give it. There's nothing that is more rewarding than that, regardless of how big the dollar sign is. That charity was given with more effort. We are not to judge people who give more money, because
usually when people are old, and I'm not saying the old people are bad, but like when people are like they're like in the later ages of their life, and they've earned in their retirement, they don't have any more expense. Their children are well off now. They're paying for their own bills. Now giving donations, it's still good, but it's not the same.
There's reward for it.
Yeah, it's not the same when you're like, I have to pay for my daughter's college, my son's college, and I have to donate for this project. Now Allah loves that thought that you had that struggle, but you give through that struggle.
And the beauty of this is we can't judge anyone. We don't know the person's struggle.
Yeah.
The person that's bringing $1,000 or $50,000, they both might have an equal struggle. We don't know.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
That's what sa'i means for us. So in this ayah, the last 10.
Let me give you another example. I like this one a lot, where it's like someone came for salah, they were struggling to come, they came in the snow or bad weather, and the jama'ah was over. Salah was over. Guess what? Islam is so generous. You get the reward for jama'ah. You got the reward as if you came to the congregation. That's how generous Allah is. Allah just wants to see your struggle.
But on top of that, like that hadith of every footstep that you take, a little bit more struggle being added. It's not
لكل خطوة خطوة حسنة.
Like, why? Because it's just a little bit more struggle, right? And in that struggle, there's just a little bit more reward. What is the best prayer? The greatest prayer is Salatul Fajr. The greatest optional prayer is the last third of the night, Tahajjud, because it's the most rewarding, right? It's the hardest to do.
What's the second hardest prayer?
Second hardest prayer?
Farad. Let me ask the crowd. Okay. I know you might say, what's the second hardest prayer? Maybe during COVID is not the hardest because situations have changed, But the Mufti said, okay, you know what? You tell me. Well,
Most people might say Isha, but if you want to know my answer, Bijan, the hardest prayer for me is Dhuhr.
Because
Because right in the middle of the day when we're just
you're in the middle of the day, things going on. People say Isha. Someone said Asr. It's Asr Salah. Imagine coming back from Asr Salah from work, right? Someone else says Asr. Because coming back from work, going to, coming, you get stuck in that whole middle of it. Like, I'll go pray at home. And Asr time hasn't come in yet. Asr Salah, this is why Allah says in the Quran, حافظوا على الصلوات والصلاة الوسطى. Protect that middle salah. The middle salah, the Asr salah. Right? So again, you could lose track of that, but you get reward if you try to make it and you make your best.
Bijan, going back to the ayah, right, Bijan? So
can you explain? دل سعيهم في الحياة الدنيا. They lost.
يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا means that they thought that they were doing something. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses two words over here, which we should have both of these qualities, but for good. Number one, yuhsinuna. When they were doing something, they were doing it very well. And not only did Allah say ihsan over here, Allah also said suna'a, which is from sana'a. There's a difference between, and I'm not going to go into too much of grammar, but there is a word called ja'ala, which means to make. There's also a word called sana'a, which means to make. The difference within both of them is sana'a has an understood meaning of doing it good, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Nuh alayhi salam, wasna'il fulka bi'a'yunina, wasna'. Right?
I love it when you go linguistic and Arabic. Like, I like that stuff.
I wish I could do it more. But wasna'il fulk is make it well, make it good. This is why a factory in Arabic is not called maj'al, it's called masna', because that's where things are made properly. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends off this ayah by saying the things that they were doing wrong, they were doing very good. So if you're doing things right, do it very good. Then it'll be a challenge. Allah in Surah Ghashiyah says, وَجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ خَاشِعَةٌ عَامِلَةٌ نَاصِبَةٌ. Right? Like their foreheads are sweating. They're so tired because of how much effort they exerted in the wrong place. They put the liquid in the wrong column. Rather than putting the engine oil in the engine casket or in the engine area, they put it in, the windshield fluid. It'll mess up the entire car. So from these two qualities, we understand that we should have them, but for positive things. I think the entire summary of the last 10 ayat are to make an effort with an exerted effort, a directed effort towards the akhirah. Now, how we get there is through different a'mal. Everyone has a different pathway to Allah, but wanting that's the greatest want. And Allah, just through that want that a person has, you said, Bajan, kana sa'yuhum mashkura, through their desire, through that effort, Allah is grateful for what they did and the effort that they exerted. Bajan, you want to quickly add anything?
I just want to say, it's bad when you're doing something in dunya that's wrong, but it's even worse when you think you're doing something religious but you're also doing it wrong. Like, where so many people open these organizations thinking they're doing this in the name of Islam. يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا. There's nothing Islamic about it. So many people have these events.
Allah protect us.
Allah protect us. So many people have these lectures, speeches, social media accounts. They I want to become popular so I can help Islam. Like they use a name, like they're lying to themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
this is a huge trend. Sometimes people make a masjid also, like they'll establish a new masjid here. They don't need a masjid. Like, they will even in the name of a masjid. Like we had the munafiqeen in the time of the Prophet wanted to make a masjid next to the Prophet's masjid. Allah says, I don't know these guys, لا تقم فيه أبدا لمسجد أسس على التقوى. Sometimes like we do things, right in the eye of good stuff. Like it sounds good, but like, who could say like doing a charity cause is a good cause? But it's always a good cause. Making a masjid, if you tell somebody like, can you imagine people are going against our masjid? On outside it sounds bad, or institution, but like, what are you doing? You divide the community. Or for sure, there's some places it's needed. I'm not generalizing it. A lot of organizations, a lot of people, I'm doing it in the greater cause and the greater good of Islam. Okay, but is this because you thought this was in the greater good of Islam? Like, what is your thinking process? And like, where did you come up with this idea? You have to be sincere. Not only sincere, you have to be wise. You have to be visionary. Ask people. And you know what I always say? Ask the opposition. Ask your competition. Like, just get some secret information. Like, what would they think? And the most importantly, ask the righteous people. Ask the righteous people. Even if you're righteous, ask multiple righteous people. The Prophet ﷺ, even him, if he wanted to do something, he would ask the Sahaba. Like, so just because you think that something needs to be done, or I can do it better because they haven't done it, you know, I think that needs to be thought into. Like, you know,
like you have really, like, it's not just
a lot of institutions, a lot of organizations, a lot of Muslim leaders are going to be in trouble, thinking like, oh, we converted so many people, we helped, we gave away so much food, we did all that, mashallah, you did all of that. But you know, why did you do it?
May Allah protect us, you know, for all of us, man.
And the name, you know, these guys, these crazy people, extremists in Syria and Iraq, you know, they're like, again, same time, same ideology. Extremist radical Muslims, right? They think they're like, oh yeah, we're bringing back Khilafah and we're reviving Islam and they're butchering the name of Islam. You have people like they're forcing their women to dress a certain way. They think they're doing a good deed, but they're pushing women away from Islam. They oh yes, a guy comes into the masjid with shorts on, they yell at him, thinking they're doing a good thing. That kid's never going to come back. Someone's wearing like a small shirt to Isha, to the masjid, never been to the masjid before, yelling at him like, oh, I did a good thing today. I told someone in his face that his salat was wrong. Like, really? I mean, really? So, I mean, it's so many things that we think we're doing right, but we're not. We're going to be accountable for it, whether it's individually, domestically, globally, internationally. We got to be careful why we're doing it, how we're doing it. And people, when they start a business, right? They do analysis, you know, they do some survey. Analytics, right? And they do all this. Like, when it comes to religion, fatafat, do it. Like, how do you know if it's needed? Maybe those resources could be used for something better.
SubhanAllah.
So, khalas,
that's what you're saying is the whole idea is, you know, again, what's the measurable that we're doing it right? We don't know. That's why we always seek istighfar after doing something good. We don't even know if our salat.
Ask people knowledgeable people. Ask the experts.
Have a shura. Have people you can ask. But even after you do everything, still seek it. So we are still taught to seek istighfar, seek forgiveness, and ask Allah SWT to give us the ability to continue doing good. You know, there's a beautiful dua that was read by Sahabas. Allahumma la tahrimna khayra ma indaka bi sharri ma indana. Oh, do not deprive us of the goodness that you have because of the bad that we have done. Like, we don't know why we don't know how we got accepted to do this, but it's because you saw some kindness, you saw some love in us, and you're helping us do this. So how do you know? Because you ask people around you, and also you're always worried about your own mistakes, right? Right? If you feel good and you're helping people, may Allah allow you to continue doing so. May Allah allow us to continue doing so. But Jen,
let's go ahead.
These last 10 verses, in the end of this, the opposite side of the spectrum.
Let's just translate this quickly, if you don't mind. These are the people who just believe in Allah, you know, and they made their signs of Allah's signs, Allah's verses, and the messengers that came speaking to the Ahl Kitab, a joke. Even within the Muslim sect, they think people make things into a joke. They think they're like making, you know, the mockery.
They think they're above certain things, right?
Yeah,
we're not above anything.
You know, we have to follow. We have to follow the Prophet's teachings. Now, from verse number 107, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala takes attention to the direction of the pious people. I wish we could spend more time on this. Inna alladhina amanu wa aminu salihat. Verily, those who believe and do good deeds. Mufti Sahab, is this the common language of the Quran? إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات كانت لهم جنات الفردوس نزلا. For them is a paradise, Jannatul Firdaus. It's not just a paradise; it's the highest level of paradise. Nuzula, Jannatul Firdaus is their abode. Remember before we said, and for Jahannam, Kafirina, Jahannam al-Kafirin Nuzula. Their welcoming is Jahannam. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to the believers,
it's rare, which is rare, because generally when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses an adjective to describe Jannah and Jahannam, they're not normally the same. There's differences within them, right? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use nuzula? Nuzula can be used for both because it fits perfectly. It either means ever ascending or ever descending. So, for example, it can give the meaning of Firdausi Nuzula, you're in the highest status of Jannah and you're always going to be going higher. Like you always feel like you're getting a better Jannah every day. And
Wow.
your punishment of Jahannam every single day will, now Allah protect us all. A person's punishment in Jahannam is Nuzula. It's always getting worse and worse. The pain is not getting easier. The pain is not getting better. The pain is getting worse. And the bliss of Jannah is getting greater. So Nuzula, you're always ascending higher and higher.
I love this ayah. I love these last few verses where amanu wa amilu salihat. Our core deen is to believe in Allah and do salihat. That's so easy. Like, look at the words. It's not that complicated. Amanu wa amilu salihat. Just believe in Allah and do some good deeds. What are you getting, Firdaus? Tell us, Mufti Abdul Wahab, what's going on?
Jannah, you finished, mashallah, you finished it. Amanu wa amilu salihat, iman and a'mal. Start with the easier a'mal and lead towards the more difficult ones. Whatever you struggle with, let it be. Still do the easier ones, right? Some people struggle with fasting, give charity. Some people struggle with charity. I mean, there's the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that a person who struggles with charity struggles to wake up in the middle of the night to pray salat. But the famous hadith, right? Person is too coward to go in the path of Allah. Person is too miserly to give charity. A person is too tired to pray salat in the middle of the night. There's still something for him, right? Just do what?
Dhikr.
Just remembrance of Allah. Whatever is easy for you, just do something and allow that to continue to push you forward towards other things. If you're like for basketball, right? If you know how to make a jump shot, well, make that perfect and then jump into a 3-pointer, or then learn how to drive. Like make what you're doing good and move on to the next thing.
And do the easy ones. Easy ones.
The hard ones will come too, inshallah. Of course, the goal is to do everything, but the hard ones will come. Then you will be in Jannah forever. And Allah, why don't you finish it off?
I just want to tell them a little Firdaus, a little bit. Maybe we should do a Jannah workshop on Firdaus. But
you have a Jannah workshop. We should do it one day.
Yeah, it's called Walk Through Paradise.
I Walk Through Paradise.
We'll do it one day from Miftah. Please, we'll do it. Remember, that's good. You reminded me. But basically,
you go into detail on that day. But right now, you're gonna give them a snippet.
Just a snippet. Like I was telling my kids the other day. That a man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, "Afil jannati khaylun." Is there horses in Jannah? Because my kids are doing horse riding, right?
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we're trying to make them into the ranchers. Anyways, so I told my kids came back from horse. They're fascinated. The Prophet. These are from the Sunnah of our Prophet. Some teach your kids.
I struggle with horse riding. I've done it once, and I probably won't do it again. It's scary.
Don't do that. Don't. We don't want to lose you.
I'll stay on the ground.
Stay behind the wheel, not on the back of a horse. Mere pyare. But in the end of the day, I told my sons, I was like, listen, man, Jannah. And I brought this hadith. I said, a man came to the Prophet and said, is there horses in Jannah? The Prophet was like, Naam. So when you go to Jannah, he said this to the Prophet. The Prophet said this to Sahabi. When you go to Jannah, Allah will bring a horse for you, min yaqut, or a ruby.
Wow.
Made out of ruby. And lahu janahan, and have 2 wings. Yatiru bika haythu sha. And it will make you fly in Jannah wherever you want. My kids were like, what? Like really? Like the imagination of kids is unbelievable. Like for us is like, oh, we get to it just started gliding all over Jannah. Where would you go? Where would you want to stop this horse? Just flying around. What is a hoverboard? What is a jet? What is a car? A horse? I mean, that's how the Sahabas could understand it. Allah knows. Like the Prophet tried to make them imagine something they saw driving at that time, and they could ride. We don't know. That's just the closest they could imagine it. The Prophet somebody asked the Prophet, what's the fabric of Jannah? I remember
that horse ride. He was with me in Houston. He took me. So
Qasim Bhai took you to take a horse ride?
Dr. Fan Qasim Bhai. So it was in Houston. So it was in the south, Bijan. So it was rough.
Well, next time you come with me.
Inshallah.
So the Prophet, someone asked the Prophet, what is the fabric of Jannah, the material, the lumber? The Prophet said, the lumber and the material of Jannah, it's not like this drywall and this cement here. Labinatun min dhahab wa labinatun min fiddah. A gold brick and then a silver brick. وَمِلَاتُهَا الْمِسْكُ الْأَصْفَرُ. And then with a musk, musk is used as a ceiling between the 2 bricks.
Hmm.
وحصباؤها لؤلؤ والياقوت. And then I love this one. And this is that, the rocks and the landscape outside the palaces of Jannah are pearls and rubies.
SubhanAllah.
Subhanallah.
Not
ما لا
not red mulch.
Yeah, ما لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت. The eyes cannot imagine. There's a Sahabi that died when Surah Insan was revealed. هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر. I talked about this and the affected verses. If you get time, maybe you can share those series at Flint Islamic Center YouTube page. I talked about the people who are affected by the Quran. There was a Sahabi that actually died. إذا رأيت ثم رأيت نعيما وملكا كبيرا. When the Prophet ﷺ said, when you see Jannah, you'll be shown this palace in Jannah and your kingdom in Jannah, mulk, this kingdom in Jannah, and then you look back at it like, whoa. ثم رأيت نعيما. You'll see this big Jannah. And the Sahabi he asked the Prophet ﷺ, أرى عيني مثل ما ترى عينك يا رسول الله. Will I be able to see what you see in Jannah? Because إذا رأيت, it's referring to the second person, to the Prophet. So does this include me too?
Hmm.
The Prophet ﷺ said, Naam, your eyes will see exactly what my eyes will see in Jannah. The man, he, out of extreme excitement, just took a scream and he passed away. Like in medical, there's a term that you can die out of grief, but you can also die out of joy. There's the study of that. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Inna sahibukum qad mata shawqan ila al-jannah.
Allahu Akbar.
Is my Sahaba, listen up. Your companion just died with this because of his eagerness and his passion to Jannah. I can't, like some people, I don't know, astaghfirullah min kulli dhanbin wa tubu ilayh. People used to watch Michael Jackson, back in the days, right? Michael, and he would go,
Mikhail,
he would go, ow, you do that, right? And people would faint.
Oh man.
People would faint. They'll be transported to hospitals.
Oh, subhanAllah. Wow.
If that's a human being singing and dancing,
human being.
Imagine what's going to happen in Jannah.
I
don't understand why people don't understand this. Like, how is that possible? Like, what do you mean? But anyways, that's Jannah. Firdaus. So Prophet ﷺ said, listen, when you ever ask for Jannah, fas'alullah al-firdaus. Always ask for Jannah al-firdaus. Always ask for the best. Because فَإِنَّ فَوْقَهَا عَرْشُ الرَّحْمَنِ. The roof of that paradise is the arsh of Allah.
Allahu Akbar.
The arsh of Allah is your roof.
Oof.
Subhanallah. How beautiful is it? Like I saw a picture that like at a restaurant where the roof is lemons hanging and somewhere in Italy. Like it's just lemons, real
picture, okay.
Yeah, not real. I didn't know they're real. Yeah, we've seen some nice funny restaurants, like I saw it in a restaurant, the ground of it was all glass and under it was water with fish.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So like you see this thing, like what is this doing? Nothing. Imagine the arsh of Allah. What noor and what will be the glitter and the glamour? What chandelier are we talking about? The arsh of Allah. The arsh of Allah is your roof. So what is it? إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات كانت لهم جنات الفردوس نزلا. And it's not like a 6 days, 7 days, all-inclusive resort. No, and of course, there's no restrictions on the Day of Judgment. You can drink alcohol, you can drink the wine of Jannah, the rivers of Jannah. There's no restriction. We Muslims, even if we go to Mexico, there's restriction. We go to Florida, astaghfirullah, anke ban karo. Like why are we even here then? Like we go to places that we can't even look up. Some people, mashallah, they can look up and they still don't get affected. But usually, you go to these, you go to South Florida or California, or you go to any tropical area in the warm climate. What are you gonna do? You're there like, and then you go to a restaurant. Is it halal? And then making sure it's a virgin drink. You want something good. You want to be ingraised, but you cannot enjoy like the ingraised. You really can't do anything because you have these restrictions. You go to these party areas and try to enjoy like them. You kind of come out depressed. Let me find a private place on the beach.
Private place.
So my wife can also go and dip. All that struggle for extra 2-mile walk. By the time you get there, you don't even want to swim anymore. So this dunya is different. It's a little challenging. But imagine Jannah, man, Mufti Sahib. It's not 6 days limited. The thing about resorts are too, like when you go at a restaurant, you come back, and then you see the bill. Man, the Muslims in Jannah are going to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That's the bill, man.
So when they see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these Muslims, we us, inshallah, when Allah Allah removes the curtains, everyone's going to fall in sajda. And Allah says, irfa'u ru'usakum. Get up from sajda. This is not the time to pay anything. You've paid all your dues. You've done all your struggles. You've done everything. Enjoy. كلوا واشربوا هنيئا بما أسلفتم في الأيام الخالية. So that's Jannah. I mean, we can go on all day about this Jannah. I just want to let people know that we're missing out. We're missing out. I tell some people who love to enjoy dunya, I say, save some for akhirah. Don't go into the haram. Just come on, just take it easy. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this Jannah all over the Quran, just to motivate us, encourage us, to make us. May Allah make us amongst the inhabitants of Jannah.
Ameen.
And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us enjoy a peaceful life in this dunya. That life that you have in Jannah with no worry, Allah gives that life in this world to pious people. May Allah give us that. Let's finish this off, Mufti Sahib. I know we're running out of time. خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا لَا يَبْغُونَ عَنْهَا حِوَلًا. Forever, no one's going to take you out. There's no return flight. Once you enter Jannah, you're there forever. Yes, your wife is going to be your wife in Jannah too. So is your husband. They're going to look better. You don't like the way your spouse looks right now? Your husband? You're getting bald and getting white hair like me. It's okay. We're all going to be 30 years old in Jannah. And guess what? Everyone's going to have the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salam. Allah, Haseen, Yusuf alayhi salam's beauty. It's amazing. Everyone's going to look handsome and beautiful. And every single day, in Ahl Jannah, yazdaduna fil jamal, kama yazdaduna ahl dunya qabha. Like as we age in this dunya, we lose our youth. I don't want to say beauty. We lose our youth. In Jannah, you get healthier and you get more beautiful day by day. It's just increasing. So then we have ghulam kullu. Then Allah says, "Kullu kana al-bahru midadan li kalimati rabbi." Tell them if the oceans were made into ink to praise Allah. لَنَفِدَ الْبَحْرُ قَبْلَ أَن تَنْفَدَ كَلِمَاتُ رَبِّي. The oceans would dry up, the sea would dry up, the water of the world would dry up before you could be done praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَوْ جِئْنَا بِمِثْلِهِ مَدَدًا. And if you brought another 7 oceans, and you try to worship, praying, it will, ولو أنما في الأرض من شجر من أقلام والبحر يمد من بعد 7 أبحر ما نفدت كلمات الله. If you had more, just started praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thanking Allah for everything, use all the ink that's equal to the oceans of this water of the dunya.
I mean, that ayah tells us a simple point of just having our kids speak about Allah, speak about the greatness of Allah. فَعَلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Just saying Allah's name and speaking about Him. We teach our kids the concept of saying thank you to people. Hey, give you a candy, say thank you. Oh, she did that for you, say thank you, which is very important. But also teaching them the concept of before going to sleep, thanking Allah for life, thanking Allah for family, thanking Allah for everything that we have. Speaking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our father used to force us to speak about the greatness of Allah for 1 minute every day. Just uttering the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has its benefits.
Mufti Abdul Wahab, should I tell you something secret? You going to pay me for this?
I mean, whatever money I have don't have much.
Okay. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu says, he says, I have a hard time waking up for tahajjud. I have a hard time waking up at night. So he said to him that, and he said, sleep overwhelms me because I just can't wake up. And he said, Ibn Abbas said, إِذَا أَرَدْتَ أَن تَقُومَ أَيَّ سَاعَةٍ شِئْتَ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. If you want to wake up any hour of the night, he said, and remember, they didn't have alarm clocks back in the days. The only thing that could wake them up is the so it's like if you want إذا أردت أن تقوم أي ساعة شئت من الليل, anytime you want to wake up at night, you have فقرة إذا أخذت, read this before you go to sleep. قل لو كان البحر مدادا لكلمات ربي. What I just read right now, it's from daily recitals. That's why we're talking about this. Read this before going to sleep, and you have your intention to wake up, Allah wake you up.
SubhanAllah. We should do this in
It
madrasa.
says, يُوقِظُكَ مَتَى شِئْتَ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. Allah wake you up whenever you want to wake up at night. Allah would just wake you up. Allah wake you up. And of course, we know that's just this verse till the end, the ending of Surah Al-Kahf. But there's a virtue of reading the last parts also. It says, in the last part of this ayah, فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّي, and anyone that wants to meet Allah and desires to meet Allah, just do فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا, just do good deeds and don't do it with this
Amalan
phrase.
salih. Just,
Do
it means a good deed. Just do something.
any good deed, but amalan salih definition is to do the way the Prophet ﷺ did it. Right? وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّ أَحَدًا, and do not associate any partners to Allah. Do not associate any partners to Allah. It says that رُفِعَ لَهُ نُورُ مَا بَيْنَ عَدْنِ مَكَّةِ. Anyone that reads these last verses of the surah, Allah will fill his whole light, his whole body and the space that he is living in with light, full of nur. So مَنْ قَرَأَهَا كُلَّهَا كَانَتْ لَهُ نُورٌ مِنَ الْأَرْضِ لِلسَّمَاءِ. Anyone that reads this surah, Allah will fill them with nur. So this is a beautiful, beautiful surah, beautiful ending. You know, people did you know that? If you read this last part, this is what happens?
We should do it in madrasa.
But did you know that?
And you reminded me.
You knew it. I knew you.
I haven't done it. No, I forgot about it. We haven't done it in a long time. But when we were studying in madrasa, there was, our teacher would tell us to recite that, wake up to study at night.
Yeah, this is the daily recital message for all of us. Read the last part. You wake up anytime you want, and then you wake up for what? The Tahajjud, the best prayer of the night. You know. So Jazakumullah khair, everyone.
May Allah reward everyone for listening, Bajan. Everyone stayed for so long, for an hour and 6 minutes. May Allah bless all of you.
We kind of started late because you joined us late.
It was your recitation, Bajan.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Just for the audience, so everyone knows, our actual seminary, our classes have also restarted. Our program are online and so on. So we're just.
I don't think they're hearing. You got to speak with more energy, Mufti Sahab. I'll do it. So someone asked, do we read this? What do we read every night? So reading from Kullo Kan al-Bahru, verse number. Let me give you the verse number. Verse number 109 to 110. So just 2 verses. Last 2 verses. If you read this at night, you can wake up at the Tahajjud and you make intention to wake up, inshallah. Of course, you try to sleep early. You try your best to get some good rest. Mufti Abdul Wahab is just reminding us, alhamdulillah, Miftah's associate program has started on campus in Warren, Michigan. We had over 70 students that came on site, mashallah, yesterday.
70 students was year one. We had 100.
Just year one. Altogether, 120 students that came on site. May Allah reward Mufti Abdul Wahab and the entire staff and the students that came. And then we have Miftah Online, over hundreds of students on Miftah Online. Then Miftah Associates, Miftah Light program. If your parents or your children are in the programs, may Allah barakah. If you're not, just keep on praying for us and try to join us in the future. At least keep tuning in for these live sessions. And please support this channel. Please support our channel and subscribe to our channel and share our channel and become a donor to Miftah if you haven't donated as a sustainer. But guys, there's so much happening all week. So much happening. Tomorrow we have our Ubaidullah Evans Family of the Prophet. Wednesday, Behind the Scenes. Thursday, Family Matters. Friday Night Live.
These are just the lives that we do, but our classes are also held every evening.
Yeah.
On Sunday night we have associate. Monday we have light. Tuesday we have associate. Wednesday we have online. Thursday we have again online. So every day we have classes that are seminary classes that are held in the evening. So inshallah, in Saturday, Sunday we have the talent for the kids. So whatever.
Miftah talent. My kids are loving the Miftah talent. Thank you.
Whatever course you're a part of, may Allah reward you all. If you're not, this is a course in itself.
You should tell them to check out the website.
They can check out the website, but this fall semester registrations are all completed for all the programs. So they can start looking into joining for the winter, inshallah. Please join us for the winter.
Inshallah, guys. Keep us in your prayers. You have a great day. Pray, and forgive us for the extended program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.